Amara was the kind of woman everyone in Lira admired. She was a quiet force, strong, hardworking, and full of dreams. By day, she sat behind her sewing machine in their small workshop, turning plain fabric into beautiful dresses. Every coin she earned, she saved with one goal in mind: to build a future with her husband, Tendo. She believed in love, in partnership, in building something real, and she believed in Tendo, maybe too much. They often talked about their dream home. Tendo would point at pieces of land and say, "That's where our house will be." Amara would smile, her heart full, picturing a little garden, children laughing in the backyard, and the life they were creating together. Every month, she gave him her share of the savings. "Keep it safe," she'd say, and he'd nod, kiss her forehead, and promise, "I'm doing all this for us." But behind Tendo's sweet words and easy smile, another story was unfolding. While Amara worked long hours at her sewing machine, he was spending their money elsewhere, not on land, not on a home, but on a secret life with another woman. Amara had no idea. She was too busy being the perfect wife, too busy believing in a man who had already started building a future, not with her, but with someone else. And while she sewed dreams into dresses, Tendo was quietly cutting her out of his. Amara started noticing small things. Tendo was coming home later than usual. His phone, once left carelessly on the table, was now always in his pocket, locked, silent, secretive. He told her he was busy with land people and business meeting. "These things take time," he'd say, "but trust me, baby, we're about to make it big." And she trusted him, because love makes you believe even the unbelievable. Every month, she handed him more of her savings. He said he was paying for surveyors, for land title, for a small shop they could open together. Amara imagined the two of them running a business side by side. She was still sewing day and night, hoping their hard work would soon pay off. But deep inside, something didn't feel right. He no longer asked about her work. He no longer complimented her dresses. And when she talked about their future, he seemed distracted or irritated. She tried to shake the doubts. Maybe he was just stressed. Maybe the land deals were taking longer than expected. She kept telling herself, "He loves me." He wouldn't lie. But behind Tendo's calm voice and practiced smile, there was a truth he was hiding, a truth dressed in lace and gold. While Amara saved to build their future, Tendo was spending on someone else. He had bought gold rings, wedding clothes, even rented a venue, not for her, but for a woman named Zula, a woman Amara had never met, never heard of. He was planning a wedding, not to renew vows with his wife, but to marry another woman, in secret, in full betrayal. And all the while, he looked Amara in the eye and said, "Be patient, it's all for us." Amara wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him, because once your heart is invested, it's hard to walk away, even when all the signs are screaming at you to run. It was a quiet Saturday morning when Amara's phone rang. Her best friend Mirembe was calling, but her voice didn't sound normal. It was shaking. "Amara, you need to see this. I'm at a wedding in Gulu. Just come, please." That was all she said before hanging up. Confused and a little anxious, Amara packed her bag and got on a bus to Gulu. The journey felt longer than usual. Her heart beat faster with every mile. She didn't know what she was walking into, but something inside her was whispering, "Brace yourself." When she arrived, Mirembe met her at the gate of a beautiful wedding venue. Music was playing. People were dressed in bright clothes, smiling, taking photos. Everything looked perfect. But when Amara stepped closer to the crowd, her whole world stopped. There, at the altar, stood Tendo, her husband, dressed in a sharp suit, smiling like the happiest man alive. And next to him, a bride in a white gown, Zula, a woman Amara had never seen before, but who was now wearing the smile that used to belong to her. And then she saw it, the gold chain around Tendo's neck, the one she had bought him with her own money after saving for months. She remembered the day she gave it to him, how he hugged her, kissed her forehead and said, "You're my everything." Amara couldn't move. Her legs felt like stone. Her chest tightened. People around her started whispering. Some turned to look at her with wide eyes. A few already knew who she was, but all she could do was stare. Tendo never looked her way. He was too busy holding Zula's hand, too busy smiling. The man she had trusted, loved, and built dreams with was standing there, building a new life, as if she never existed. The pain was sharp. It came in waves. But Amara didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there, taking it all in. The betrayal, the lies, the truth. And in that moment, something inside her broke, but something else also woke up. She may have lost a husband, a home, and her savings, but she hadn't lost herself. Not completely. Not yet. Amara didn't remember how she got back to the bus station. Her legs moved, but her heart felt frozen. Whispers followed her like shadows. "Isn't that his wife? I heard he left her." She looked so lost, and they were right. She was lost, humiliated, heartbroken. Her whole world had crumbled in public, in front of strangers, like a bad dream she couldn't wake up from. She cried quietly during the ride back to Lira, her tears soaking the scarf she had tied tightly around her face. No one on the bus knew her story, but they could feel her pain. When she reached home, she expected comfort, maybe her bed, her sewing machine, something familiar. But what she found instead broke her all over again. The house was almost empty. The sofa they used to sit on and talk about dreams, gone. The fridge, gone. Even the curtains she had sewn with love were missing. Half the furniture had disappeared. Tendo had sold everything while she was still holding on to their future. The man she gave her heart to had stripped her of everything. Love, money, dignity. Amara sat on the floor, in the middle of that hollow room, surrounded by silence. But inside her, something was no longer quiet. It wasn't just pain anymore. It was something hotter, sharper, angrier. Not the kind of rage that breaks things or screams. No, this was colder, smarter. Revenge, but not messy, not loud. A quiet decision formed in her heart. He took everything from me, but I will rise from this. And when I do, he will regret ever thinking I was weak. She looked around the empty room one last time. Then she stood up. She had nothing left to lose. And that, she realized, made her dangerous. Amara arrived in Kampala with one small bag, a broken heart, and no clear plan, just the will to start over. Mirembe welcomed her with open arms, giving her space in her tiny one-bedroom house. Amara slept on a thin mattress on the floor, next to boxes and sewing tools. It wasn't much, but it was safe, and for the first time in weeks, she could breathe. She borrowed an old sewing machine and started taking small jobs, mending clothes, adjusting dresses, fixing zippers. Word slowly spread in the neighborhood. That quiet lady! Her hands are magic. But Amara wasn't just sewing fabric. She was stitching her pain, her betrayal, her strength into every thread. Every dress told a silent story of heartbreak and survival. One day, a woman came in asking for a custom dress for her introduction ceremony. Amara worked through the night, pouring her soul into every detail. When the client picked it up, she gasped. This is not just a dress. This is power. That one design changed everything. The woman posted a photo online, tagging Amara. Made by the tailor who turned pain into beauty. The post went viral. More people came. Orders started to pour in. Not just from Kampala, but from across Uganda. Women said they felt something different in her clothes. Stronger, seen, beautiful. Amara worked from morning to night, still sleeping on the floor, still eating simple food, but her spirit was rising. Slowly, stitch by stitch, she was building something no one could take from her. Not Tendo, not heartbreak, not poverty. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. Her work spoke for her, and people were finally listening. One afternoon, a well-known celebrity walked into Amara's small workshop. She had seen one of Amara's dresses online and said, "I don't know who you are, but your work speaks loud." Amara was nervous but focused. She listened carefully, measured every inch, and created a gown that was bold, graceful, and full of soul, just like the woman wearing it. When the celebrity wore the dress to a big red carpet event in Kampala, the internet exploded. Photos spread like wildfire. But what made it truly viral wasn't just the dress. It was the caption she wrote. Designed by the widow of Betrayal, a woman who stitches power into fabric. Second Skin by Amara is the future. In just hours, Amara's name started trending. People wanted to know, who is this widow of betrayal? What's her story? Within days, her inbox was full. Clients from all over were begging for appointments. Some even offered double the price. Journalists called. Radio stations invited her. Fashion blogs posted her photos with headlines like, "From Broken to Boss," and "She didn't just survive, she designed her comeback." She didn't even have a proper shop yet. Still working from Mirembe's small house. Still ironing clothes on the floor. But now, with a wait list that stretched for months. She named her brand Second Skin by Amara because that's what her clothes felt like to women, like strength they could wear. Every interview brought tears to people's eyes. She didn't cry on air. She spoke gently, but her words were strong. "I don't make clothes," she said once. "I make armor for women who've been broken, but still show up looking like queens." In a city full of designers, Amara stood out, not just for her talent, but for her truth. Social media had once been a place of pain and comparison. Now, it was her stage, her spotlight, and with every post, every order, every dress, she was rewriting the story of her life, one stitch at a time. At first, Zula thought she had won. She believed she was the lucky one, the woman Tendo chose to start a new life with. He was sweet in the beginning, full of promises and charm. He called her my queen, brought her flowers, and said they would build an empire together. She believed every word, but soon, the smiles faded, and the real Tendo began to show. He stopped coming home early, his phone, always in his hand. Late nights became normal. When she asked questions, he brushed her off. "Don't stress me." Money started disappearing. He said he was investing, just like he told Amara, but there were no businesses, no land, no receipts, just lies. Again. Then the phone calls started. Strange women asking for him, flirty messages popping up. Zula's heart sank. She didn't want to believe it, but deep down, she knew. The man she had taken from another woman was now cheating on her too. One night, she finally confronted him. She waited for him to come home, stood at the door and asked, "Are you seeing someone else?" Tendo didn't even deny it. He laughed, a cold, cruel laugh. "You thought you were the prize?" he said, rolling his eyes. "You're just the next in line." Zula stood there, frozen. His words hit harder than any slap. She had given him everything, her love, her money, her trust. And now, just like Amara, she was being tossed aside. That night, Zula packed her bags and walked out. No drama, no screaming, just silence and heartbreak. She finally understood what Amara must have felt: the betrayal, the shame, the deep wound left behind by a man who never truly loved anyone but himself. Now, Zula was also alone, also broken, the bride who thought she had it all, left with nothing but her pain. The same way Amara had once walked away, now it was Zula's turn. Betrayal had come full circle. The lights dimmed, the music started. Amara stood backstage, her heart pounding. Her first fashion show in Kampala, a dream she had once cried over on a cold mattress in Mirembe's tiny house, was now real. Models lined up in her latest designs, each one fierce, bold, and powerful. Each dress told her story without saying a single word. The room was full. Fashion editors, celebrities, cameras, and clients. All eyes were on her. Then, just as the first model stepped onto the runway, someone in the back pushed through the crowd. A man, worn out, dusty shoes, tired eyes, Tendo. Amara saw him before security did. For a moment, time froze. The same man who once made her feel invisible now stood there, in her spotlight, looking small. He called out, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Amara, please, give me one more chance. I messed up. I'm sorry." People gasped. Cameras turned. Whispers filled the room like smoke. Amara didn't say a word. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She simply nodded towards security, who moved in quickly and firmly. As they led him out, Tendo begged, "I know you still love me." But the crowd had already turned against him. Someone even shouted, "You had your chance!" The audience clapped as he disappeared through the doors. The music didn't stop. The models kept walking. And Amara? She stood tall, straightened her shoulders, and walked out onto the runway at the end, dressed in one of her own designs. Strong, elegant, unshaken. Cameras flashed. The crowd stood to their feet, cheering for the woman who had turned heartbreak into beauty. Tendo was gone, but Amara had never been more seen. This was her moment, her story, and she owned it fully. Not a tear in her eye, only power in her stride. The studio lights were bright, but Amara sat calm, dressed in one of her signature gowns, bold red, stitched with gold. Her posture was graceful, her eyes steady. The TV anchor smiled at her, clearly moved by the story that had taken over social media. People across Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, and even South Africa had heard of the tailor who turned betrayal into a brand. Now they wanted to hear her speak. The anchor leaned in gently and asked, Amara, after everything you went through, the heartbreak, the betrayal, losing everything, what gave you the strength to rise again? Amara paused. The room fell silent. Then she gave a soft smile, not the kind that hides pain, but the kind that says, I survived it all. She looked into the camera and said, when a man steals from your pocket, you feel poor, but when he steals from your soul, you build a new one. The anchor blinked, speechless for a second. The words hit deep. Even the crew behind the scenes stopped what they were doing. Everyone felt it. That short clip hit the internet like a storm. Within hours, it was shared across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. People added the quote to their bios. Women sent messages saying, you spoke for me. Men said, I've never heard strength sound so quiet and so loud at the same time. Talk shows discussed it. Radios played the clip. Bloggers called her the voice of the betrayed. But Amara wasn't seeking pity or revenge. She was simply telling the truth. And the truth, wrapped in grace, had power. She didn't cry on air. She didn't name names. She didn't need to. Her strength wasn't in shouting. It was in showing up, standing tall, and wearing her scars like diamonds. That interview didn't just make her more famous, it made her unforgettable. Across Africa, people now knew her not just as a fashion designer, but as a woman who rebuilt her soul and stitched it into every dress. And the world couldn't stop watching. Sunlight poured through the glass windows as Amara stepped into her new boutique. Tall ceilings, gold accents, clean white walls lined with her designs. The name shone above the door, Second Skin by Amara. This wasn't just a shop. It was a monument to every tear she had cried, every stitch she had sewn, every time she chose to rise instead of break. As she walked between the racks, checking final touches before the grand opening, the door quietly opened. She turned, and there stood Zula. Their eyes met. No words at first, just the heavy silence of two women who had once stood on opposite sides of the same storm. Zula finally spoke, voice soft. I didn't come to fight. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Her eyes welled up. I didn't know who he really was. I thought I had won something, but I lost myself too. Amara looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded. We were both victims, she said gently, but I refused to stay one. Zula smiled sadly and stepped back. She didn't ask for anything more. Amara turned, walked out onto the sidewalk as the cameras clicked and reporters waited. But this time, she didn't need anyone by her side. No man, no savior. She had crowned herself with healing, with courage, with purpose, and the world could see it.